So in a previous video, I was mounting a GPS to my sled, and I promised that in a future video I would get into the OFSC trail maps and into TrakMaps. And you know what? Joe Nault made a really good point, and I promised myself that I was going to mention this when I did a future video. And that was to bring a compass with you. Just a good old-fashioned magnetic compass. And you know what, Joe? You're absolutely right, because your electronics can fail, right? Your GPS, your cell phone, whereas a good old magnetic compass probably won't. You know, if you, especially out here in the winter, everything looks the same. Now, if you're really paying attention, you might notice, oh, well, there's a downed tree there hanging across, and that's a landmark that I'll use. Yeah, that's great until you look over there and there's another tree that's down on an angle. All right, guys, so my point is, even in the summertime, one tree looks pretty much like the next when you're out in the bush. And in the wintertime, when everything's covered in white like this, I mean, it's beautiful, but it's pretty easy to get turned around as well. So the point of all that is that I think mapping is really handy to have with you out on the sled. All right, so let's go. I'm starting to get cold, so let's head back inside. We'll have a look at a couple of things that I think are really handy. We're going to have a look at TrakMaps for your GPS. We're going to have a look at the OFSC Interactive Trail Guide. And we're going to have a look at an app that I think is really cool too. All right, so stick around. All right, guys, before we get started, I'll just point out that I'm recording this on my birthday, on my 50th birthday. So do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, right? Hit that like button for me. Okay, let's get to it. So there's really two products that I'm going to talk about. So one is the OFSC Interactive Trail Guide. That's a pretty cool tool, and best of all, it's free. And then the second tool we're going to talk more about is TrakMaps, and I touched a little bit more about that, but I'm going to give you a look at it on the computer. All right, so we'll start off talking about the OFSC's Interactive Trail Guide. Now, this one is really cool, whether you're, you know, in Ontario and you want to plan your snowmobiling trip, or even if you're not in Ontario and you're just curious what our trails are like, or you're planning a trip up here, this is a really good tool for you because it's completely free. On the Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Club's website, so that's ofsc.on.ca in your browser. And when you get to the main page, you're going to go to this menu here with the 4 drop-down items, and you're going to go to Trip Planner, and you're going to choose Trail Guide. Well, the first view that opens is the trail status, and you can see up here on the upper right it says currently viewing trail status. So if you look at the legend across the bottom of the screen here, it says the green is available, yellow is limited availability, and red is a trail unavailable. So we want to switch this to the trail network view. Just click here. The next item over here I'll point out is the districts. So I am in District 9. So in Ontario, the different snowmobile clubs, or the Snowmobile Federation, is broken down by districts. I'm in District 9, so that lets me see the trail network in District 9. Next menu over we have is the points of interest, so POI is point of interest. So if I wanted to see where there was fuel nearby, and you can just toggle these things on and off. That just helps me plan my trip a little bit. I'm going to turn these off. Snow tours, I talked about these a little bit in my first video, but if we want to choose right here, we have a Bruce Peninsula tour. And then we'll zoom into that area and we'll highlight that route. So here we have a tour that kind of takes me around some of the key areas on the Bruce Peninsula. And these just toggle on and off again. So if you want to hide it, you just toggle it. If you left click on the trail, you'll get this little call out. So it tells me this is the B108, it's a feeder trail. It tells me it's part of District 9 and it's maintained by the Central Peninsula Snowdrifters. It gives me the length, etc. I can click add to route. And now that particular section of trail is added to my route. The other thing that's really cool about the OFSC Trail Maps is the app. So if we go to the Trip Planner menu on the OFSC website and we go to GPS Mobile, you get this page, and this gives you a link to both. You can get the snowmobile maps from TrakMaps, but you've also got this mobile app. And this app is really cool. So it's available for Android devices or the iPhone. I happen to have an iPhone. So if you click there, it'll just take you to the Apple Store. Now, I've already downloaded this. Pretty cool, actually. So you've got all the features that you have on the interactive trail map on the website, except you've got it on your mobile device. So that will let you access the maps when you're out and about. So you got to remember that the same thing is true. Like right now, it's loading configuration, it's downloading mapping. You can't do that if you're not connected to a cell network or to Wi-Fi. But still, you know, for the most part, this is a pretty handy little app to have. This is $3.99, but it's well worth the money. So, you know, if you haven't got a GPS or you haven't got the $79 to shell out for TrakMaps, the $3.99 for this is kind of the next best thing. So, you know, again, If you don't have cell service, you may not have full functionality of the map, but for the most part you will. So you click the icon at the bottom, it'll go to your location, so you can see that's where I am highlighted there. And you've got all the points of interest. So, you know, if we wanted to have a look and see where fuel is available, we can see the tour loops as well on here, which is pretty handy. All right, so that is the interactive trail guide. So I think that's well worth the $3.99. All right, guys, so there's the OFSC Interactive Trail Guide, and there is the iSnowmobile app. Now, those are both great tools for checking trail statuses and for planning routes. They're also great for letting other people know where you're going to be riding. So now let's have a look at TrakMaps, and we touched on those a little bit last time when we installed a GPS on the sled. Now let's have a look at TrakMaps on the computer. So let's go in and have a look. So I'm at trakmaps.com, and I'm going to click Maps for GPS. And you can see here they actually make mapping products for a number of different outdoor activities. We want snowmobiles. And you can see here that they actually have trail maps. They work with the organizations in Quebec, Ontario, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland. So it's not just the Ontario maps, but it's the Ontario maps we're going to have a look at. And again, we did talk about this a little bit, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about, you know, the features. You can see that they've got all the trails. You know, there again, we've got those 33 self-guided snow tours that we had. All right, guys, so if you're going to use TrakMaps on the computer, you're going to have to start by downloading Garmin Basecamp. So I've plugged my Garmin into the computer. I've got the TrakMaps SD card is inserted into the GPS. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select TrakMaps Snowmobile map instead of the City Navigator map from the Garmin. Okay, now what's kind of cool about this, and I'll show you how to do the same thing on the GPS, is because I've selected the TrakMaps instead of the City Navigator, when I choose navigation from one point to another, it'll actually route me on a snowmobile trail instead of on the road, which is kind of neat. So let's say, for example, that I want to create a route from, you know, where I am here near Red Bay up to, say, Lion's Head, and I want to take the snowmobile trails to get there. I'm going to use my navigation tools here. I'm going to go from Howdenvale, it's my start point, and then I'm going to drag over here to Lion's Head as my destination. And you can see it's actually routed me around on the snowmobile trails instead of on the road. So that's created a route here. So if you look down here on the left-hand side of the screen now, I've got previous routes that I've created, and if I select one, it highlights it. And then I can export this, export selected user data. I can export that to the GPS. I can save these routes out and share them with other people that I may be riding with. Okay, once you have TrakMaps on your sled, we're just going to go to our settings. And we're going to just make sure that we choose the right map and we turn off the road map. So now we're using TrakMaps. As if I wanted to go to Pike Bay. So the cool thing now is that it's using the snowmobile trails to route me instead of the roads. Okay, so one more thought on TrakMaps. You know, really highly recommend the product. The product itself is good, but one thing I said before, and I'm going to say it again, TrakMaps has amazing customer service. And that's really important to me. That's one of the real major things that differentiates one company to another, in my opinion. You know, anytime I've had a question to them, I've sent them an email, they've gotten back to me promptly, politely, and thoroughly. Really recommend that company. There you go. There's a quick look at some of the mapping software that's available to you if you snowmobile in Ontario. Or if you're just planning on coming to Ontario and you want to have a look at some of the trails in advance. Alright, so I hope you found that video useful, and if you did, I hope you take a second and mash the like button for me. If you subscribe to the channel, I try and post new content at least once a week, especially during the winter season. Until next time, I'm Dave Clark, and thanks for watching.